Good morning and welcome to Missoula Real Estate Today. This is Denny Bedard. Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate on News Talk, KGVO. Well, thanks for letting us join your 49-hour weekend. Yeah, not only is it Fallback Sunday, but Halloween weekend. The Montana Grizzlies would have had a home game on a lovely Halloween day. I'm sure that makes a former University of Montana cheerleader sad, like it does me, but she's pretty she's pretty busy right now. Anyway, Beckie Peterson, part of the Diane Beck team at Windermere Real Estate on Missoula Real Estate Today. We are doing this. We are observing social distancing on the phone. I don't get to see in person, but how have things been going for you? It's nice to have you on.
It has been fantastic. I really have no complaints. It's been a tremendous year, even in, some of the, I don't like to call it the new normal because I'm not making this normal.
Me either. I am with you there. But
in the new, in the current, phase of life, I've been very fortunate and blessed, so I really don't have any complaints.
You were scheduled to be on last week on Missoula Real Estate Today, and the floodgates opened, and I mean that in a good way. What an exciting week for you last week, huh?
It was busy. I had just the culmination of work from, we're always 45 to 60 days back from what we've cultivated. And, I had some incredible closings last week with some really great clients. And so it was very busy, just those last-minute gatherings of information and bringing everyone to the table and then helping those people get settled on their, getting into their new homes. And then the snow on Saturday just made it great for all those people.
Yeah.
I was making phone calls on Saturday. Did you get in okay? Did you buy a shovel when you left our closing like I told you to?
Right. Did this house come with a complimentary snowblower? I'm sure that was the first question.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. There was I literally was like, "Are you okay?" And they were like, "Yep." We shoveled, and then our kids came and picked us up because they don't think we know how to drive in the snow.
Uh-huh.
So it was good. Yes, it was a great week.
Well, congratulations to you on that. And I guess my first question is how you have been conducting business the last 8 months. Is it getting easier? What have some of the biggest challenges been for you, Beckie?
I think the biggest challenge is our inventory is so tight. It's not a huge, I don't want to say a complete lack of inventory because I've found every one of my people, we found something. It's patience. But it's been, controlling that, I guess, setting expectations for how long it takes to find and actually secure or get under contract on a home for people. And then managing that time of the showings between the amount of influx we have right now. So I would say that, it's required a lot of really good time management. The conversations have changed a little bit, say on the buyer side of expectations, and making sure they're clear before we get started so they understand and don't get too frustrated with, okay, we're going to go see these 5 houses tomorrow. And then we go out the next day and I get a phone call, well, this one went under contract. Or we've gotten 3 offers. Are you guys going to be prepared? Oh. And so it's just that expectation of changing what we would have to normally have a conversation with some of our buyers. And then with sellers, it's that expectation of, yes, many houses, they'll say, oh, my neighbor's house sold in 12 hours. You're right. And that's that house. So let's find out what they did right, or let's, look at it. Here's what they did right. If you want to be in that same category, we need to do those things right. It's obviously far easier to sell right now if it's priced correctly and it's, ready to sell in those cases because of the less competition there is right now for sellers in certain areas. It all depends also on the price point.
Yeah, you make a great point there. This ain't the gold rush of 49, You can't just get any asking price. I imagine you do deal with that a fair amount, still having to manage that expectation about what you realistically can ask for your house if you're a seller?
Yeah, you can. I mean, you can ask whatever you want. The realistic question is, do you want to move? And if you want to move, when do you want to move? How quickly do you want to move? When do you have to be out of your house and into the next plan? Because you get people in all different phases. Some are, I just want to see if I can sell it for this. Well, that's difficult. That's difficult because you say, well, you can see, but that's expensive on our part. There's a lot that goes into that. And, if you have the time and energy, that's fine. But most 99.9% of people are, yes, we want to move. We want to move by this time frame, and we need to be here. And then that goes into the pricing decision because if you need to be gone yesterday versus we're fine with it being 3 to 6 months down the road, those two things can play into those decisions of what ultimately we might recommend and what a seller will ultimately decide to sell their house at.
Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Our guest this week, Beckie Peterson, part of the Diane Beck team at Windermere. Let me stay on that. One more question for you, Beckie. As far as those sellers, have they, I know you could always use more sellers, but have they pretty much decided now is the time to sell and not wait till COVID settles down? Because who knows when that will be. Is it just something that, I don't want to say they're not worried about, but has it become kind of a secondary consideration as far as putting their home on the market?
In the beginning, last spring, that came into play for a short while as people were trying to just learn more about what the pandemic was and how it was going to affect all of our lives, and them knowing exactly what it was and what kind of risk they were taking in having their home on the market. The real estate industry, I think, has done a great job of stepping in to limit exposure for those that are listing their homes and for the clients that we're taking into homes and buying by having, we may have booties for their feet and face masks and hand sanitizer. And in some cases, what we've been doing a lot is the homeowner will turn on all the lights, maybe open a few of the closet doors. So when we go in, we don't have to touch anything. And we just leave it that way. In the past, it was courtesy. We would shut everything off and close everything up. Well, now we don't touch anything at our best. And if we do, I try, I know every agent has their own things that they do to be very careful. One of mine has been, I take a Clorox wipe with me, and if I have to touch anything, I just touch it with that and wipe it off, and then my clients don't have to touch anything. So that's how we've tried. It's now developed where we're seeing where that doesn't necessarily hold people back from listing. What we're seeing most that affects listing is, where am I going to go? So if I sell my house, I have to have a place to live. And if they're moving from one side of town to the other, that can be a difficult situation if they haven't already found it.
Right.
Because, you sell a house and they go, okay, I'm going to go look. And they're like, I can't find what I want. So why would I sell the house I'm perfectly comfortable in and happy to go find and not be able to find maybe that maybe you're going to downsize or maybe you're upsizing, but you can't find that. So then they want to stay where they're at. I think I see that more than anything else for people that are like, yes, this is a great time to sell my home, but I need to know where I'm going to go. And some of them, it's fine. They're going into, maybe they're downsizing or they're ready to be, they're going to go into I don't want to call it independent living. So they're ready to go to that place where they have everyone else, they're retired, maybe they're widowed, and they're going to go to where they can be with everyone else, but yet they're not ready for assisted at all. They're extremely vibrant. Life is great, but they just, that camaraderie and the neighborliness they might get. So you see some of that, but if they're going to another house, we got to go find that first.
Isn't it amazing, Beckie? I mean, getting back to the COVID aspect of the whole thing and listening to you describe some of the measures the precautionary measures that you take. Isn't it amazing what you've had to develop as far as a pretty convincing list to overcome that objection?
Yeah, you really just have to talk it through with people, but it has been. It was, in the very beginning it was changing. One of the other big things that really affected us in the beginning, and right now as we're seeing a rise in our cases, at least, in our area, is those that are trying to relocate. So back in, May and June, or I think it was maybe April, May, when they couldn't travel to Montana.
Right, yeah.
Unless it was for business. Well, we were deemed in the real estate industry to be essential if they were coming here to buy a home. But if they came here, they strictly had to come into town, look for a home, pack up, and go. They couldn't come and then stay and vacation, which a lot of people will do. Or if they did that, they had to quarantine for 14 days. So what ended up happening and has adapted across the industry is doing kind of remote showing. We would even do that in cases for local people before we would take them in the house. So basically it was limiting exposure until they knew that they were super serious about it. So it allowed us to go in and give that visual and open, let them see and everything, and then decide if either they wanted to fly or drive into Montana, or in this case, they were in town and they were serious enough that the seller was willing to let them in, or the buyer was willing to go out and, have that next level of risk. Same with like open houses. But I don't think until this is all lifted, you'll ever see a regular open house like we used to have in the volume we used to until it's all cleared up.
Sure.
But they've also done some where they do that virtually, where the agent's there and during that time frame they're kind of live and people can come in and out of that live open house, but it's all virtual.
So you
just adapted.
Yeah, you do find a house. You've negotiated a price. You got your mortgage. You got your title. What are you seeing as far as changes? You did reference this a little bit, but how about the changes in the time it is taking to finalize the sale of a home?
That's a great question. It used to be a lot of times if you had everything lined out and, you were really on top, you could get a closing done in 30 days. Now but normal was about 45. That was the average. That's what we usually put together. So you weren't putting anyone in a stressor from the mortgage company to, the clients or anything. Now 45 is kind of, you're tight. Mm-hmm. 60 is where you feel safe when you're not crunching anyone. And the reason behind that, unless it's a cash deal, but when you got financing involved, and the reasoning is that not only are our inspectors were out a couple of weeks, so you couldn't get an inspection for up to 2 weeks. And you normally don't want to order an appraisal with your lender until you've gotten through and negotiated and come to terms on an inspection. Because if you can't come to terms on that inspection and the transaction is terminated, you don't want to have paid for that appraisal, because now you've got two expenses on a transaction that is now terminated. So, and then on top of that, the appraisers were even more backed up than the inspectors, because not only were appraisers being drawn in on new purchases, but the mortgage industry needed them for refinancing, for those that were doing refinancing because of the incredible interest rates.
Yeah.
So, it would say, hey, appraisers are out 30 days. Well, if you can't order an appraisal till 2 to 2.5 weeks because of an inspection, and then you got 30 days, well, now you're sitting 60. So I really felt for those in the mortgage industry, the appraisers, and then the title companies, because, it takes all three of those to do a refinance.
Yeah.
So in addition to the purchases and selling that was done in what I like to say my side of the real estate of those three industries, they also had the refinance, which was a record, as well. So it did lengthen it in certain areas. Right now, I've noticed in calls I put out in the last few days, I've been able to get an inspection within get one scheduled within about 7 days. So and that's just the time of year. It's not that the industry is, stopped. It's just we're coming into our fall, winter season, and so it's slowing down. It's still busier than it was last fall, but yet not what it was, say, even 3 weeks ago, which is normal to have at least a little bit of a, curve down as we start to head into the holidays. But that was yesterday. Who knows? I'll say that now, and then in a week I'll go to try and get an inspection, and everyone will tell me they're 2 weeks out, and I'll be like, oh, no.
Yeah.
But that is what slowed it down, that and appraisals. And I believe they both are, maybe we're now back to the 45-day situation. But it was interesting, and it was, you were kind of jockeying around to try and get those two things all lined up for people. And
sure.
But boy, I can tell you, all the industries worked really hard, and it actually turned out, at least in my situation, I had very good, everyone came together. So I never really had any delays based on any of those things, which was nice.
And one of those possible influential factors could come into play on Tuesday. I'll get your thoughts on that in a second here. Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Our guest, Beckie Peterson of the Diane Beck team at Windermere. And, Becky, so many factors go into this, the quality of life, the desirable community, but are the asking prices of homes in Missoula or Western Montana, are they surprising you for any reason?
Oh, absolutely. I think anyone that is not surprised by the price change or the increase in the average or median home price in our area and areas around us, they're not shocked, then I don't know. I don't know what else to say about that, because you just don't see that kind of increase in the time frame that we've seen it. Yeah. Especially going through a pandemic when other parts of our economy are in such a stressor. And it just, and maybe it comes, I really don't have any data or anything else, but in my own, I guess, assumptions, I think back to when we have stressors as a nation in our lives, we tend to want to go home. And I think that home ownership and having a home is a place where when things are crazy, pandemic, I can go back to 9/11 or anything that really just stresses us as a country. I think we find people wanting to be home. They want to have a place that is theirs, that is safe, that when the world is crazy, they can come. And so I think that has continued everyone wanting to have home ownership, and those not selling because they are aging in place. The millennials are of the age now where they want to have a home. We're seeing that uptick quite a bit. But if we're not selling our older generation because we're living longer, we're more vibrant, again, they want to age in place, and those homes aren't selling. That's kind of what's put us in this frame of low inventory and just needing more housing options. But yeah, in Missoula, the prices have been surprising. And there's times I look and go, oh my gosh, I cannot believe. And it's not in any one price category. It's in all of them. I do get a lot of phone calls on listings of people that wanted to come out this way, but it's always that one oddball listing that they see and think, oh my gosh, I can go to Montana, I can get 20 acres with this little tiny A-frame type cabin, 1 bedroom, 1 bath for this incredible amount of money.
Yeah.
And then you get on the phone with them and say, okay, that 19 acres, 17 of it goes up the hillside. You can't build on it. It's beautiful. You could maybe hike up it, but you can't do anything with it. And, well, then can you send me another, 5 or 10 properties like that?
Oh, boy.
No, there isn't any. I don't know what to tell you. That was just an amazing little piece that took a while, for us for various reasons. But yeah, it's Montana must be, cheaper. And it's like, well, no, not in town necessarily. Or a lot of our areas, the Ravalli County price-wise has starting to catch up to Missoula County. Not all the way, but getting there. So, and in comparison to many parts of the country, yes, we're still, we're nothing like San Francisco or any of those areas, and I hope we never are, because it's important. I really, want to find ways to help people become homeowners, and it is, more difficult now in our area than it was. But if we're patient and work really hard, we find it, and there are programs out there that help, buyers that need help getting into homes. There's some great programs, and many of the lenders, we have great lenders in Missoula that know those programs to help people, and they're great about it.
Well, before we have to wrap it up here, I always like to ask you about reviewing some of the advantages that you can offer as a local agent as far as accessing prices and multiple listing services, things like that, because accuracy, I think you would agree, that's pretty darned important, huh?
It really is right now, and I think that the difference between, if you price your property right as a seller right now, then there's a really good chance that we can get multiple offers. And when you get a multiple offer situation, you obviously tend to get more for that property. We'll oftentimes get above asking price if we price it right in the beginning. And some people would say, well, then it wasn't priced right. Well, you wouldn't have gotten multiple offers and over that ask. In fact, you may have been negotiated down if we hadn't priced it correctly to attract those people to know that it's correct, I guess. Buyers if they have an agent, I'm going to do my homework before we make an offer on that home. I'm going to look at the values around it and what have things sold for to make sure that we're not just going in and then getting what I call Twitter-pated. You get in the house, you're excited, you really want to buy a home. Gosh, this one's so clean and cute. We love it. And I said, that's great. Let me just do a quick, value on that house. So even if we do get into a multiple offer situation, let's make sure that we're doing the right thing in value. And that's, we have access to what has sold recently around that house, what else is under contract, so we can look and do that research. And I like to do that so that I know before we make an offer. And on the seller side, I want to make sure that when we price that property, again, that we're not overpricing it so that we're waiting for people because they'll see it. And you'll get a rush at first, and they'll go, yeah, but they have an agent like me on the other side going, yeah, but I think it's a little high. And here's why. So why don't we wait and see if they get, if we start to get offers on it. And that will affect it because then you're not going to get what you could have gotten maybe if it had been priced correctly in the first place. And we're going to help you make sure that maybe it's staged correctly, or on a seller's standpoint, what could you do to your home to make it really shine when the showings come, to help you maximize your return on what it's going to sell for, to help you make sure that when your property hits the market and goes not only into our MLS, which is what feeds out to Zillow and Realtor.com and all those other national search engines, in addition to our MLS, that's going to help market your property amongst the other things that we do. So we really help make sure that stuff is done and that it's accurate. Accuracy is so important in marketing your property, because if it's not, that can cause a deal to fall apart, especially in today's market where a lot of buyers maybe that are from out of state are looking at it online and making that determination before they get here to see it. And if it's not accurate and they get here, that's a fast turn away. there's even a form that we've had added to our documents for the industry that says that you're making an offer on a home, understanding that you have not seen it. It's kind of a disclaimer. It's also now part of our buy-sell. On the second to last page, it says the buyer has or has not seen this home in person, so that the seller knows when they're looking at that offer whether or not that person's even been inside the house or not. Yeah. Because we had situations where they hadn't been in it, and then they get out here, let's say they fly out to see it during inspection phase or whatever, and they change their mind, and then the deal, the transaction is terminated. That's time lost for a seller of marketing. It has to go back on the market, and they've lost people that maybe were there at the beginning, or there was a multiple offer, and they could have taken an offer of somebody that actually physically bid in the house. So it's important. So that's actually came up to the point where now it's part of our contract.
Yeah.
And I think that's been and it all started because of the COVID pandemic.
Right.
And the amount of that increasing. So, the other things that we do is I find this more often than not, our contracts now are 12 pages long for the buy-sell. There's a reason for that. There's a lot of information in there that is protecting buyers and sellers that we've had, has really been, what do I want to say? It's years of, having professionals and our legal look at it and make sure that it's there for protection of everybody. We know all the documents that need to go into it and all the steps that we take to make sure that we're going and getting an inspection and that's done in the timely. All of the dates and times that are required in a contract, there's usually about 6 dates, deadlines that we're following. And we follow along in that and guide you every step of the way. Okay, here's what we do now. Okay, that's done. Now here's what we're going to do in the next, this time frame. Here's what's going to happen in the next time frame. Here's what you need to accomplish. Here's what we're going to accomplish. Here's what the buyer or seller is going to accomplish. Here's your title insurance policy. Here's what you're looking for when you read it. Here's why we have it, and what that is. And then where do we go if we have questions about it, and go back, to the title company or wherever we need to go to make sure that that's in line. Being prepared for inspections and for appraisals. We try really, really hard. We have systems in place for that and communications in place. And I would say on our team, the most important thing that is stressed every single day is communication.
Yeah.
Just communicate. And that's probably the biggest complaint in our industry of buyers and sellers is, well, I just didn't know what was going on, or that, I never heard from them or whatever. So we just try and make sure every industry has what they feel, is the hardest thing. And it's really so simple. A simple phone call, a simple email. Some of the young ones, they want just a text, really makes it flow so nicely. And when you're informed, I think it's less stressful.
A wonderful realtor to know and work with, Beckie Peterson, part of the Diane Beck team at Windermere Real Estate here in Missoula, on Missoula Real Estate Today. And what's the best way to get a hold of you folks, Beckie? Well,
you can, we have all kinds of numbers, but you can reach me at 406-829-6003. You can always just call Windermere.
Sure.
And you can email myself at Beckie, BECKIEP, at Windermere.com, or Diane Beck at Windermere.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Always a treat talking with you. Hopefully the next time we can visit in person, huh?
Absolutely. I miss all of you, and I would love to get to see everyone. Hugging is my big thing, and boy, I tell you, people are going to hate when it's over because I'm probably just going to walk around grabbing people all the time to make up for a long time.
Thank you for listening to Missoula Real Estate Today. We'll see you next time.